30 ideas for Dublin City Council. Idea number, and the idea is supervised injection facilities across Dublin for people injecting drugs. Dublin has never really left its heroin problem behind. We have a huge number of people who regularly inject the drug, and as a result we face huge problems. That's public injecting, it's needles being dumped on streets and in parks and even playgrounds. We have a spread of disease amongst people in addiction, and crucially we have a huge number of overdoses. Many of them are fatal. In 2020, for example, over 400 people died from drug overdoses, and the majority of those were from opioids like heroin. That's more than twice the number of people who died on the roads in that year, for example. Opioids like this are vicious, life-ruining drugs, and they destroy individual people's lives, but also the community around them, and I don't want anyone to be on them. But we have to be honest and see that our drug model is not working at preventing people from going on drugs or supporting or taking them out of addiction. A lot of that sort of policy is going to be dealt with at national level. I'm a local government candidate, so I can't change it. But the main thing we can do at a council level is to support supervised injection centres where drugs can be injected indoors, privately, supervised by medical professionals. Those same facilities can also provide wraparound services, support and treatment, basic medical care, and including starting people on a journey or a pathway out of addiction. There are about 90 of these supervised injection centres around the world. They're pretty well established. Research in Canada and Australia has shown that they reduce public injecting, they reduce the spread of disease, they reduce dumped needles on streets, and crucially, despite probably millions of injections in these centres cumulatively, no one has ever died from an overdose in one of these facilities. And unfortunately, that statistic of no deaths from overdose is not one that we can say for lanes, streets, parks and toilets around Dublin. Now, injection centres are understandably unpopular. I understand why people don't agree with them or don't want them near them, but they are a proven way to reduce the problems that a community faces due to addiction, and they provide a modicum of dignity and safety to people who are trapped by heroin in that addiction. In 2019, there was a proposal for a pilot facility for one of them, for Ireland's first, here in Merchants Quay, which is part of the area that I represent. At the time, I was the only local councillor to put in a supportive observation, and thankfully it did eventually secure planning permission and will hopefully open within the next year. But I think we need to see several of these facilities across the city, not just one, wherever there's an opioid problem. And I don't think this pilot facility can be the only one we have in Dublin. I'm a public representative trying to find solutions for our city's problems. I'm also looking for votes, but in doing that, I have to be honest about what I think works and what doesn't work. And from what I can see, based on international evidence, these centres do work. There is no perfect, comprehensive or tidy solution to something like heroin or any drug policy, but I think there are steps we can take to make things better. And the alternative to these injection centres is not no injections or no drugs or no heroin. The alternative is public use, public needles, public overdoses, and ultimately, in many cases, public death. So if elected, I will fight to continue for more of these facilities and work to end the cycle of public injection and overdose.